Yes, welcome back. It is still the press, and we're about to begin our discussion this morning. I have just one guest in the house, expecting the other one to join us as we take a look at State of the Nation analysis of newspaper front pages. I did tell you before the break that we'll be taking a look at three focus. We'll be taking a look at ASU strike as federal government directs VCs to enforce no work, no pay. We'll also take a look at funding for federal government raising the alarm that terrorist financing is ongoing, and of course we'll take a look at funding for the hike, I beg your pardon, we'll take a look at NNPCL hike and fuel price that happened. It started on Monday, and just by today we're having a new increase altogether. So we're going to start with ASU strike this morning, as academic staff of universities asked to commence is a 2-week nationwide strike. Now, the federal government has directed vice chancellors of the federal universities to enforce the no work, no pay policy. This is coming as members of the Congress of University Academics, CONUA, have appealed to university authorities for protection to enable them to continue with lectures during this strike. Now, the federal government's directive was contained in a circular dated October 13, 2025, signed by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, and addressed to key education stakeholders. Pro-chancellors of federal universities, the Accountant General of the Federation, and the Executive Secretary of the National University Commission, NUC. Now, you want to ask what are the demands by ASU. In 2009, the federal government signed an agreement with the union after a 4-month strike. The October 2009 ASU federal government agreement has been the reason for the subsequent industrial actions. Subsequent agreements include the 2017 Memoranda of Action, the 2013 Memorandum of Understanding, and the 2020 Memorandum of Action. The issue of integrated payroll and personal information system or personnel information system, which is not in the initial agreement, does not sit well with the union, and it just goes on and on like that. All right, my guest in the house this morning, one of two, has become a friend, and not just a friend. If you follow the show, you will know we twin every time. We wear the same colors, not planned. We just come here and we are wearing same colors. Even on other programs that I've invited her to, we wear same colors. Uchenna Obidike, she's a legal practitioner as well as a social affairs analyst. Uche, it's so nice to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. We're always twinning. I don't know why you always do this.
I said something to myself. I said, I'm going to wear this red today. And if Uche comes here wearing a red dress, I'm going home with her. I'm going home with you. Uche, it's so nice to have you on the press.
Thank you.
We're expecting Mr. Idris to join us, but I'm happy that you beat the reins to be here this morning. And we're taking a look at a very, very important issues germane to the polity, important to us as Nigerians as they happen. But before we begin, your state of mind of the nation, state of mind of Nigeria or Nigeria right now.
Well, I'm sure the state of mind of every Nigerian is a solemn one or a sobering one. We've come to live our lives as we know it, a life of hardship, but that's the life we've come to know, a life which we don't deserve. We deserve more, and I believe this is how every Nigerian feels. We hope for better in Nigeria. We hope our leaders eventually make things work in this nation. Yes,
that's a tall one.
Yes,
it's the desire of every Nigerian, but I don't know about you. I still have faith in this nation. A lot of people will not agree with me because, again, what can I do as a Nigerian? This is a place I call home. No matter where you go in the world, you carry the peace of Nigeria with you, and you must come back home. Even if you do not return, you leave family members behind.
There's no place like home.
Yeah, the burden of knowing that you escaped you escaped and you left people behind will always weigh deep in your heart and on your shoulders.
Yes, especially when you have your roots. Your roots always be in Nigeria.
Definitely.
Yes.
So look, I can't help but be optimistic about this nation, just hoping for the best.
Yes.
So let us start on with our discussion this morning. ASU, federal government face-off. You were here when we talked about a couple of weeks ago, when ASU, kept on reminding federal government to meet with them,
demands,
so
yes,
they can go through the demands and threaten that they were going to go on a nationwide strike. This threat has been on ground for a long while, and eventually it is happening. Yes. And the first reaction we're getting from the federal government is to say, hey, look, you have to put a book and a pen by the gate and count everyone who comes in. No work, no pay. I really want us to discuss this. Should this have been the reaction? Should we have gotten to this point of the federal government actually threatening, after all the time period given by ASU, to warn and plead and remind and call out the federal government? Should this be where we're at right now?
Okay. So the federal government's policy, no work, no pay policy, has very good legal backing. We have Section 43 of the Trade Disputes Act, contained in Chapter T8 of Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, which provides that workers who strike are not entitled to pay or wages during the period of strike. So the federal government has very good legal backing in terms of that. But this goes beyond the law. Now, it goes beyond the law. We are looking at the health of our academic system. These recurrent strikes by ASU are because of a burnout of unfulfilled agreements by the federal government with respect to poor funding and infrastructure. You talked about the 2009 agreement, which is yet to be honored, 2017 agreement, which is yet to be honored. So all these unfulfilled agreements are the reason why ASU has decided to embark on the strike. And you talked about the federal government's approach to it. Now, while the federal government stands on a good legal ground, the question is, is it the best approach to solve this problem?
The threats.
Is it the best approach? Yes, the federal government is standing on good legal ground. Is backed by law, the Trade Disputes Act. But is it the best approach right now to solve this problem? Whenever ASU embarks on this strike, we have the students and their parents on the receiving end, students who lose academic years. We have their parents who watch their children doing nothing at home. So they are the ones even the lecturers too, who have to go without pay, as the federal government has threatened. But does this solve the problem? What we need is a balance. Fiscal discipline on the part of the federal government. The federal government must learn to honor its agreements and respect the academia. Because in this situation, punishment should not govern trade relations. Dialogue instead should govern trade relations in Nigeria, and not punishment. If the federal government decides to punish everybody who decides or raises their voice against the injustice in terms of dishonoring agreements, then we are going to have chaos and anarchy at the end of the day. Because what we need now is two people to stoop to conquer, a dialogue. ASU has to sit down, the federal government has to sit down and look for ways to settle these issues beyond their egos. Now, we have our academic system, the health of our academic system hanging in the balance. So they have to sit down. So while the no work, no policy has good legal roots, it is not the best approach in this situation.
Yes. Now, beside the agreements, according to the research that I did, according to statistics, it says that one of the problems, that the federal government has refused to address is the promise of 1.3 trillion naira, injecting a total of 1.3 trillion naira into public universities, both states and federal, in 6 tranches starting from 2013 after the union decried the deplorable state of the institution. All this too has not been met. The question I'm asking now is, why do you think the federal government is stalling in meeting with ASU, meeting, if not even all of the demands, but at least 60-70% of the demands since this has been ongoing? What, in your opinion, do you think is the problem with ASU and federal government reaching an agreement, and of course the federal government meeting part of its agreement with ASU, if not all of it, but at least to a larger extent? What do you think is the problem? Why do we have the stalemate?
Honestly, I'm also devoid of an answer to this, because I don't understand why the federal government has refused to honor its agreements. Why enter into an agreement if you are not intending, you have no intentions of honoring it? ASU has not asked for the money to be paid in a lump sum, but we've talked about installments. These are not things which are outside the powers of the federal government. It just reflects lack of care or respect to our educational system. Because why has the federal government, their reasons would never make sense, because the youth are the future. They're even of they are our future leaders. They are the futures of tomorrow. They are the leaders of tomorrow. They are our future. This education affects them. The federal government entered into an agreement saying, oh, we are going to do this, we are going to do that. But now it appears as if it was delayed tactics all along. They just wanted to pacify ASU at that period, at that point, to go back to school. Then they decided not to honor the agreements. But we need to remind the federal government that this is beyond their ego. We know they have the capacity and capability to honor this agreement. We can't, I graduated since 2011, and even when I was in school, we had these strikes. These strikes have been in the history of Nigeria. We've come to live with ASU strike. It has become a normalcy in Nigeria.
I was supposed to graduate in 4 years. I graduated in 5 years because of ASU strike. And
yes, you mentioned it the other time. So we always have the strikes. I don't believe this issue is beyond the federal government. The resolution of this issue is beyond the federal government. What I see is the federal government evading its agreements, evading the honoring of its agreements. And I don't know why, we've had successive governments, 10 years and different.
They just pass it on to the next.
Pass it on. Nobody wants to address this issue. Because why? What is their reason? They entered into this agreement. Are they challenging the agreement? No, they have not challenged the agreement. Are they contesting it? No, they have not. But they have refused to honor it. So you don't blame people. And we also know the state of our public institutions with respect to funding and infrastructure. There's a lot of lack in that aspect. So it's not as if the growls or the grudges of ASU are misconceived. No. The state of our public institutions actually very, very alarming. So we need the federal government. I do not know. I do not understand why they have refused to honor the agreements. But what I know is that ASU strike has become a tradition which everybody has decided to overlook. So the federal government has to sit down, dialogue with ASU, settle this once and for all so that we can move on. We need a generation who would just hear stories of the past ASU strikes without actually living it and witnessing it. We don't want our children. This is not how a functioning government should run.
Okay.
Yes, please.
If you just joined us, it is the press, and we're taking a look at very, very important issues this morning. And we're starting with ASU strike as federal government directs VCs to enforce no work, no pay policy. This has dragged on forever in Nigeria. And like my guest has said this morning, we're looking for a future where strikes like this or situations like this between ASU and federal government will be a thing of the past, where we just talk about and say, you know, once upon a time, this indeed happened. Now, in your opinion, how do you think this affects our educational system beyond the student, beyond the lecturers, even to the mental state of lecturers who have put in so much and expect what they earn, what they deserve from the federal government, and yet they are not getting it? The parents, the students, and of course the lecturer on that graph.
Well, you know, mental health in Nigeria is something which is always just waved aside. You know, nobody actually understands the extent of what people pass through in Nigeria. You know, we've come to live our lives as we know it, our hard lives as we know it. So when things happen, people are just like, oh, well, don't worry, be stronger. We just resort to prayers. But we always know that, you know, even as a Christian, I know that the Bible says that heaven helps those who help themselves. You know, you don't just expect people to just deal with stress, deal with pain, when the federal government has a lot they have to do. We have students losing academic years. Just imagine yourself, a student preparing to graduate. You know, you've planned your life. Yes, you know, you've planned your life. You want to do this, you want to do that. You've planned your life. Then we have a strike where students have to sit at home for sometimes 6 months. I've witnessed a strike which went on as far as 6 months. You lose academic years. The lecturers now who are not paid now have to stay at home, living in poverty, because this is also poverty. We know the standard of living in Nigeria. The funding we are even talking about, because one of the issues also is talking about is poor funding. How much are the lecturers paid? So when you cut that supply, what do? They live in poverty. They live in need, in wants, when the federal government can easily fix the causative factor of all this. So this goes beyond, you know, people traveling abroad to seek better education, which will even lead to, you know, that gap in Nigeria where we have our lecturers have all traveled. We have that a lot of people have traveled. They've departed this country because of this educational system, the state of the educational system. And we also have people who, as you say, just like yourself, who had to spend 5 years, an extra year. That is not necessary. So we have the young generation, we have children who are growing up. We have lived that life. It will be very unfair to the young generation to have to pass through this. It is not a tradition. These strikes they are not a tradition in Nigeria. We can solve this, outgrow this, and look at this as the past and say, oh, there was a time in Nigeria where we had to transcend the issues of strike in our educational system. Let
me just add, I just hope this is right for this moment, when we talk about the effect of this continuous strike on children, on students, on parents. A very peculiar one that happened was a 6 months strike when I was in school, and one of my friends got pregnant. I didn't even know she was pregnant until the 7th month, when the ASU strike was over, and she suddenly fell ill. She went to the hospital and she was told, you are almost 7 months pregnant, and she didn't even know. Because the schools were closed, she was in the house, and a lot of things happened in between, and that was the result of the strike. And a lot of other things happened as it were. We're going to take a short break to open the phone lines when we return, hoping that my second guest is around somewhere. Please make sure you called in and be part of the conversation. When we return, we shall be taking a look at the fuels increase. NNPCL and other filling stations have increased fuel price for second time in 7 days. So we shall be taking a look at that away from ASU. We'll take that break, and when we return, more talk. Stay with us.
the beginning, God created a beautiful world.
3, 2, 1. Action.
And that's why, at Captain Television,
we imagine a beautiful world.
We are not just bragging.
We blaze the trail in broadcasting. And it is about you.
At Captain TV, broadcasting is not just about information, education, and entertainment.
It's an aggregation of all you need to know in Nigeria
And around the world.
Welcome back. It is The Press, and we're taking a look at issues that concerns us as Nigerians. We're taking a look at the state of the nation. Before the break, we started with ASU strike, the no work, no pay demanded by the federal government for lecturers who won't come to work. And of course, we're going straight on now to our next focus, which is NNPCL, as NNPCL and other filling stations increase fuel price for second time in 7 days. Now, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, and other filling stations across the country have again increased the price of premium motor spirit known as petrol for the second time in barely a week. In Abuja, it was guarded that NNPCL retail outlets adjusted their petrol price to 955 naira per litre on Monday, up from 905 naira. This means that the state-owned oil company has increased fuel by 50 naira or 5.5%. The national president of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, Billy Gillis Harry, confirmed the fresh fuel price hike at NNPCL filling stations. Recall that barely a week ago, NNPCL increased the fuel price to 905 naira per litre in Abuja. So this is our next focus this morning and today, and of course my guest Uche is still here. Unfortunately, Abdulaziz is nowhere in the picture, but I'm happy that Uche is up to the task. So Uche, the fuel has gone up again. Fuel hike affects virtually every aspect of our life. It affects the economy, it affects business, every aspect of our lives. Right now, you go to the market, prices would have increased with the latest development. It is difficult. I tell you, I don't know how the poor are managing, or the common man, in quote, in Nigeria. This is not what we expect right now amongst every other problem that we are facing. Unemployment is there. Of course, this too exacerbated high cost of living. Insecurity is there. So much uncertainty, in the land. And of course, this is not what we expect. Okay, in 1 week, for us to have increase in fuel, not just by the NNPCL, but of course of private marketers, it is indeed worrisome. Uche.
And you said it all. This is a very tough one. What we must know is that this increase is as a result of a deregulated market. Since the removal of fuel subsidy, our fuel prices have had to respond to global crude oil trends and exchange rates.
Okay, please, Uche, just a moment, please. The phone lines are open now. Let's put up the phone line so our viewers can call in and be part of the conversation. You want to talk about on ASU? Feel free to talk on ASU. We're going straight on now to a new topic, which is the fuel hike by NNPCL and private marketers. Please be part of the conversation.
So, as I said, the increase is a reflection of a deregulated market. Since the removal of subsidy, our fuel prices have had to respond to global trends and exchange rates. This is what is happening. But the irony is that Nigeria is the only oil producing nation who still imports refined products. So until our refineries, both public and private, start functioning effectively, we are going to keep feeling this painful price adjustments. And as you've said it all, like increase in fuel prices always has the same reaction in Nigeria. It affects the cost of living, the cost of transportation, everything. Even it also raises issues of insecurity, as you've mentioned. So the federal government must also learn not just to deregulate the market, but also balance it by cushioning the effects of this deregulation. Nigeria's already having it tough. I've already mentioned that we are just living solemnly, living a hard life as we've come to know it. We are also facing issues of our children going on strike now, almost staying at home, and now we have to battle fuel prices, which would affect, naturally, Nigeria affects everything, the price of everything, So the federal government can cushion these effects. We are going to keep living like this if the federal government doesn't do anything. There could be transportation palliatives. The federal government can aggressively push for local refining, because why do we have to import, refined products? And we are an oil producing nation. The federal government can push for efficiency in their own ways with respect to refining these products. The federal government can review wages. They've done it, but they can keep doing that. As this inflation keeps happening, the federal government will still have to review the wages, because we cannot talk about minimum wage, maintaining a certain minimum wage when we keep having inflation. At that point, the money loses value, and that is just the truth. So it's very worrisome, and very alarming, because most times I just wonder how Nigerians live, especially the low-income earners in Nigeria, being that everything is inflated. There is no disparity with respect to who feels the inflation more. Everybody feels it. Both the high-income earners and low-income earners, we are all feeling
based on taste.
Yes. Everybody's feeling it.
Based on taste.
Yes. And when you also talk about our agricultural products, are they very cheap? Is our food very cheap? So these are all the issues that we are facing. So I think the federal government should look for a way of balancing this, cushioning the effects. We found ourselves in this situation. So the only way to at least reduce the impact of this is for the federal government to look for ways, palliative measures to cushion
now,
these
talking
effects.
about palliatives, Nigerians are the most traveled people. If you doubt me, I've done it. Just take, on a Saturday, take your bath and go to our international airport.
It's true.
Buy a drink, look for a chair, look for a space and sit down. Go to Lagos.
Yes.
Just take a look. You will see the way. Look at statistics. If you doubt me, go check the statistics. Nigerians travel. Those in government travel. When they are here, they go with 50 sirens, convoys.
Yes.
They go out of the country. We've seen pictures. They sit on the train. They respect themselves. It is an irony that the things they see outside the shores of Nigeria, it is almost near impossible to replicate same for the people. A nation so blessed with human resources, a nation so blessed with mineral resources, natural resources, as it were. It's a paradox that we suffer as much as we do. The rest of the world cannot understand that we have a nation. There's a nation like Nigeria, and people are struggling to run away. People are going through the desert. Nigerians are dying in Niger. They are dying on their way to Libya. They die in the sea trying to escape. I think it is high time we go beyond rhetorics, we go beyond words to action in making sure that Nigerians live their best life. Look at Dubai. When did Dubai spring up like a flower? When did Dubai spring up? We have the same resources, even more, if you ask me, collectively. Dubai does not even have the minerals that we have in this nation. You cannot even find anywhere in the world. So it's shocking that we live like beggars in the nation. Now, let us go back to the fuel increase. You talked about palliative. Federal government providing transportation, as it were, to cushion, if not for anything, for students. The president of Captain Television in Ondo State actually provides transportation, free transportation for students in the mornings, and that's
impressive.
Yes, he provides free transportation. That is just an individual.
Very commendable.
Yeah, other individuals do same. It's shocking that the federal government can replicate or do same for Nigerians. Let us take how important is palliative for not just for situations like this, but in other aspects that affect us as Nigerians, the role of the federal government in cushioning the sufferings of Nigerians beyond words.
You know, the other day I was having a rather shameful discussion with somebody who mentioned, it's very shameful, but I have to say it on air, who mentioned, you know, that we fought against colonialism, we fought against slave trade, but the person was assuring me, almost betting, that, you know, if we have a situation, we have to recreate that situation now in 2025, where we have people, those slave ships coming to pick slaves, that many people would willingly jump. In fact, there will be a tussle, a stampede.
The ship will sink.
Thank you. The ship is likely going to sink. So you can imagine where people
the captain.
I'm telling you. And I'm sure a lot of people are praying to find those kind of ships on our shores, because it is not laughable. It's not hilarious, but this is how bad the situation in Nigeria has become, that people are praying
for a situation.
Yes.
Like go back to slavery.
Yes.
Okay, we have a call. Uche, let's take this call. Please let this call go through. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's your name, please, and where are you calling from?
My name is David.
David, where are you calling from, David?
From Lagos.
David, go ahead.
Well, the problem we have in this country go beyond the individuals. You can see, even in Benin, the cement is cheaper in Benin than in Nigeria. In Togo, the fuel is cheaper. Our fuel that we take to Togo is cheaper than Nigeria. And if supposing we don't even have crude oil in this country, and we are importing the crude oil, and they are selling, the profit federal government is making is so much than every other man, like 12 years ago. They are making a lot of profits nowadays. Yet NNPC, we said they don't have profit. How can you be selling something you don't have profit? The NNPC is supposed to be closed down. No private sectors do business without profit. How do they end up their fiscal years? You make a lot. There's a time we had that for 2 years in NNPC, they make almost 69 trillion naira. Where is all those monies? They are just lying to us. I don't know why we are like this in this country. We don't even know where we are going. A lot of people come to the TV telling us like we are novice, like we don't know what we are doing. We all know. The only thing that we don't know the solution how to solve this problem.
But what, in your opinion, what's the solution? What's the way forward? In your opinion, if you're to suggest to the federal government in situations like this, what would you say?
Like I said, the solution is now beyond individuals. Probably someday, some group of people who are honestly love this nation will come up one day with one ideas and begin to put things on the ground. Because for now, most of the people that you see that are elite in this country are only sucking this nation. Because they know individually there's what they can do. They know, even though you want to do individually, there are people who are there who still said they want to build their own 10 stories. They want to build their own tower in VI. They want to build their own estate in Abuja. There are still people who have not been in government, but they are working hard to be in the government.
Okay, David, David, can you hear me? Can you hear me, David?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, now you're talking about a few people. What about the rest of us? What, in your opinion, what is the role of the Nigerian citizen in holding those few people that we elected, in quote, to serve us, to stir this country towards the height of glory? What should be the role of Nigerians in asking for what we deserve? Do you think we're doing enough as Nigerians? We're a country of over 200 million. We're just talking about a few people in power. What is our role? What should be our role in demanding accountability, demanding equity, and demanding that the right things be done so this country will be the paradise that God has created it to be?
Thank you, madam. The issue is very simple. Our institution, our justice institution, our security institution, our accounting, banking institution, they are all filled with people who are suffering this nation. If you want to talk, you'll be arrested. And once you are arrested, Nigeria, our culture, right from day one, every family of this nation have their business, they're taking care of their families. We are not taking from the government. That's where we lose it. Supposing every family are taking something from the government, by now this problem could have been solved.
Okay, thank you so much. That is our first caller on the show this morning. So Uche, you actually heard what the caller said. If every Nigerian is taking something from government, again, he says that when you try to talk, you are muffled. I don't know. I don't accept all that he has said, but of course that is his opinion. Please, we still have more time. Call in so your voice can be heard. All right, because of time, let us stay away from that and take a look at our final. Okay, we have another call. Let us take that, Uche.
Yes, please.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning to you.
What's your name, please, and where are you coming from?
My name is Richard, calling from Ogun State.
Oh, Richard, go ahead.
Now, I think each time we talk about the problem of Nigerian problem, the people we have in leadership, in the affairs, in the realms of affairs, are not foreigners. They're Nigerians.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is we Nigerians. When you're giving, just for example, a local government chairman is elected into office. So it's about me. Now, we know what's going on, the internet fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Those boys do those things and their parents see them do it. They bring in the loot and their parents celebrate them. Now, if a boy starts stealing from his mother's, under his mother's roof, what do you expect him to become when he becomes a local government chairman or a governor? I think the biggest problem is our institution. I love what the then Minister of Information, the late Dora Quinley, tried to do under Jonathan's administration, trying to give a reorientation how Nigerians should think differently. I don't know if you can recall, there was this publicity that was going about how to change the way we think, the narrative. Now, the problem is, everybody just wants to get, once I am okay, it's fair. Whether somebody dies or somebody is dying, it doesn't concern the other person. And we have to take this thing back home and drive the change from our families. You see a young boy, a young girl, using a phone that is over $1 million, you ask a question, where are you working? My boyfriend bought for me. You now ask a question, the parents won't even bother to ask, what does your boyfriend do that buys a phone over $1 million naira? The family just goes away. My child is using a phone of $1 billion naira. And these things reflect in every facet of our economy.
Thank you so much, Richard, for calling in. That is our second caller this morning. Please keep the calls coming in so we can have your take. Uche, let's quickly move on to our final focus, which is terrorist financing, red flags and suspicion. The federal government has raised the alarm on terrorist financing. Please, we have another call. Let us take that before Uche comes in. George from Cross Rivers. George, good morning.
Good morning, Captain.
So go ahead. What do you have for us today? Your contribution.
Yes, mine is just a little one. I think this issue of fuel hike every now and then, and the non-functionality of our refineries, it's a deliberate act, I would say, from the part of those who are governing us to continue to put us where they have kept us. Because there is a solution to this thing. If an individual will come up within a short space of time, I mean that would say, and put up a refinery that is working, what stops the government of Nigeria, the whole federal government of Nigeria, from putting their refineries, their 3 refineries, into a good position? So that the issue of fuel hike here because of importation will be put to rest. So if the government is deliberate about it, this issue will be tackled.
Okay, if the government is deliberate enough, the issues will be tackled. Because of time, I need to give Uche the opportunity to let us understand the federal government raising alarm of a terror financing. But the question I'm asking is, every time we hear them raise the alarm, we're yet to see the faces to those who finance terror. We've been promised over and again that a list will be published. We hear, oh, we've gotten so-and-so number of people who finance terrorism in Nigeria, but we yet to have faces to this number that they give to us. And of course, insecurity in the land is increasing by the day. Uche, what do? I'm asking that we have faces. If we have one face and investigations are carried through, definitely I believe we'll have more faces. But the report this morning is that there is an alarm by the federal government for an increase in terror financing effect on Nigerians.
Well, this is very disturbing, very serious and very alarming, because terror financing is the oxygen to terrorism. Because if you don't cut the funding, you don't stop the violence. If it's seen or perceived to be, if terrorism is seen or perceived to be very viable in Nigeria, you can never stop that violence. That is the mischief of terror financing. That is what we have to note now. That is a very serious matter. You know, what the federal government is implying is that money is still finding its way into the hands of terrorists through different channels, maybe informal networks, maybe through digital currencies or even NGOs. Now, the federal government of Nigeria, or the Nigerian government, already has a law which criminalizes terror financing under the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act of 2022. Terror financing is already a crime. It criminalizes it. So now what we have to look at now is the enforcement, because we have a law. We already have a law which criminalizes that act. Now what we have to do is to look. Now the whole thing shifts to our law enforcement agencies. We're talking about the EFCC, the DSS, and so on, even the Central Bank of Nigeria, to raise alarm when there are issues of suspicious transactions, and also to investigate and review these transactions. Because as you said, we keep hearing they will release. It's very disheartening that every day in Nigeria is mostly politicized. You know, even when that list will be released, you will see how the political angle is going to take. These people will say it's because of this party, this one, everything just goes political. So it has become an issue in Nigeria because we can't even sift the truth from the rest of the situation, because every effort that is made, even when the federal government tries to honestly make these efforts, because of the state of the nation, people always say it's political. But the federal government can take positive steps by at least releasing some few names. Let us even know the people. Because now, when the federal government is talking about terrorism financing, who are the people financing this? Because I don't see any simple Nigerian citizen this financing has to do with people in power or people in government who actually have that bargaining power. I'm not saying that you will not find Nigerian citizenry some doing that, but of course we also know that the federal government may be complicit in all this, or government agencies. So we want Nigeria, we want the federal government to at least try and release some of these names. Let's even know, even if they have actually they've actually done this. Let it come to the knowledge of Nigerians that the federal government is actually working, doing this, and it also help us with respect to our faith in the governance of our nation. And this is where I feel strongly. This is why I feel strongly about also there should be stringent measures with regards to this kind of crimes. When the federal government, when these people who are all these culprits are convicted, the federal government has the prerogative to pardon criminals. But these are issues related to death, terrorism, loss of lives. The federal government should be guided with respect to the pardons for such crimes, because they are also, it's like recycling them. They come back to society, and it also affects us. We're also talking about insecurity. Insecurity in Nigeria is a very serious issue. So when it comes to pardon, as much as the federal government can be gratuitous, generous enough to pardon people because of their good conduct, but there are some aspects and some crimes which would raise concerns when you have people pardoned, because we're also talking about insecurity here.
Yeah, because of time is never a friend. But there's something I usually do. I don't know if you agree to do that with me today in your dialect, just as we round up. We don't have time anymore. Just 1 minute. Send a message to your people in your dialect. We've talked about insecurity. We've talked about ASO. We've talked about insecurity, hiking oil and price and fuel prices. Just in a few seconds, a message in your dialect to your people.
Okay. Omunemo, I nile wonde Nigeria. I nile game ka Nigeria. Buru obodo anyị chọrọ. Amam na ihe na-eme na-enye anyị nsogbu, obi adịrị anyị ụtọ maka ihe na-eme na Nigeria. Mana ka anyị jisi ike na-eme ka anyị kwesịrị ime. Anyị na-ekpekwa federal government anyị ekpere ka ha nyere anyị aka mee ihe ha kwesịrị ime ka Nigeria wụrụ obodo anyị chọrọ ibi n'ime ya, ka ụmụ anyị fụ Nigeria ka obodo ha chọkwara.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Though I didn't understand what you said, I heard Obodo, I heard Nigeria, and I felt the passion. Well, that's all time will allow us on the show this morning. I appreciate my guest, Uchenna Obidike. She is a legal practitioner as well as a social affairs analyst, and my friend, between a lot. Thank you, Uchenna, for being on the show.
It's always a pleasure, Anne.
Thanks to those of you calling in. I've had like 10 missed calls back to back. Unfortunately, we can't take the calls. Those of you who called in, I appreciate you. Tomorrow is a date on the show. Make sure those calls come in. Be a part of the show. My name is Anire, Binitie. A big thanks to everyone behind the cameras. And until next time, stay blessed. Bye for now.